Hey everyone, I am T-Rex, and last week I did do a review on the film Wonder Woman 1984. And if you want to go watch that, you can go back and watch it. I thought it was a good review. But today, I'm going to do a movie review of the original Wonder Woman that came out in 2017. And I think that would be a good idea because that way we can go back, I can give my thoughts on what I thought of the original Wonder Woman movie that came out in 2017. I think it would be fun to compare and contrast between the two movies and see what I thought on it and do a review on it. So anyways, let's get into it. Wonder Woman was directed by Patty Jenkins, who is the one who directed the sequel, Wonder Woman 1984, and stars Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Connie Nielsen, Robin Wright, Danny Husset, and David Thewlis. I hope I pronounced those names somewhat correctly. The screenplay was done by Alan Heinberg. Now I wanted to talk about the screenwriter because interestingly enough, they did not bring back Alan Heinberg for the script Wonder Woman 1984. And I think this leads to these movies feeling pretty different in tone and writing style. Not that it's really a bad thing, I just thought it was really interesting because I think that Alan Heinberg does a pretty good job with his script. I know it's a bit of a spoiler, but it's interesting that they decided not to bring him back for this movie. Anyway, let's get back to the narrative, and this story is about Diana Prince, an Amazon warrior who realizes that the world is much bigger than her when a World War I pilot lands on their hidden island. Now, one thing I think that these movies both do fantastically is being able to have very big ideas in their narrative. Now, since they are able to use gods in these stories, that helps, but they are really good at tackling these really big ideas that usually aren't able to be tackled in these superhero movies. I think what they decided to do with the narratives, the driving force for Diana, is actually very interesting. And also, I think that the world building in this story is absolutely fantastic. I think that they're being able to do very good with building Themyscira. I think they do a really good job. And when we get to go to Europe, we get this flip in perspective with instead of Diana knowing everything about her world, we have Steve knowing all these things about his world. And it does a great job of showing both these characters out of their element and makes them both feel really fleshed out when they both go places that they don't really know too well, where it feels like they're really equals. So this film looks and feels a lot darker than Wonder Woman 1984 on a whole. And I think that's just because of the tone of this film. And I think that the first 2/3 of this film really shine. They feel consistent and very connected as a whole. The problem is I don't think that the film knows exactly what it wanted to do at the end of these humongous ideas. It felt like they were a little nervous at leaving it a bit more open-ended. It really wanted to do things and be done and have a definitive end. A little bit more comic booky sort of films that are done. Now, usually in superhero movies this works, but I don't think this movie really is a normal superhero movie. So I think it would have worked if they would have gone in a very different direction and made the film more open-ended. That way it would have suited the type of story they were trying to tell in this movie. Now, when it comes to characters, I think they did a really good job with the main characters. With Wonder Woman, you get that right feeling of who she is and what she wants to do. I think that she's pretty good in this movie. I think she's good, and Gal Gadot does a really good job in this role and really shines. And I think that Steve Trevor is also fantastic in this film, being that good kind of counter to Wonder Woman, being that different dynamic. I think Chris Pine does a great job when he needs to deliver a performance, especially during the emotional scenes. I think he does a really good job in those moments. Also, there are some really fun, nice supporting characters, especially with Steve Trevor's secretary. I also think that she's pretty fun, and she's also kind of fun, where it's another sort of juxtaposition to Wonder Woman, where she's very different and much more proper than Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's kind of that fish out of water character. I think that was also a nice touch to this movie. Another part of the problem of my movie kind of also leads into that third act problem, which is the villains in this movie. I don't know if they knew what they wanted to do with the villains. It felt like there were a little bit too many villains in the pot. We had a little bit too many subversion of expectations that I really didn't feel that we got that great villain we needed. It felt kind of like a meddling pot of, oh, we kind of need this to hold in, then this character can show up. And the villains just don't work, really, because their tone is a lot more different than the tone of the movie. At first, they're a lot more campy and a little evil, haha, we got our plan. But then it feels really different because we're in World War I, and them laughing maniacally is like fun, but it didn't really work with the tone of this movie. And the other villains are like really clash with what they're trying to do because the characters feel underbaked. Some of the villains just don't feel developed enough at all, or when they're starting to get development, they're cut off by another villain who needs their development evolved more. Now, this isn't a huge problem for me because usually villains I'm pretty okay with if they're being okay, and the villains in this movie are fine. It's just they really don't shine as much as our main characters, which I love to see. One reason that I love the first Spider-Man movie so much is because I think Green Goblin is so good in it. I think Willem Dafoe does a great performance, and that really elevates the movie as a whole. But it's in movies like this where it's like, the villain's pretty I don't love them. But it really kind of contrasts when I'm like, oh, I really liked Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor and the Secretary. And then there were the villains. Like, it's not a huge like drawback, it's just kind of annoying when you're like, this could have been more. Now, one thing that is also very strong in this film is the pacing. I think this film moves at a nice, brisk pace and is able to get us from place to place very effectively, and it really feels like we're on this journey somewhat, and it feels like it's continually moving us forward, and where we go like leads to another place. And I think the transitions in this film are also very nice. I think that makes the movie feel like it is moving at a good pace, and also that the pacing is great, and I think that they do a really good job at being able to move this film along. I think also the action in this film is actually pretty great. I think on the whole, this film is also shot very well. We get cool action scenes, Wonder Woman's jumping around, beating up guys, jumping through sniper towers and stuff. There are some really cool scenes in this. The trench scene and her on No Man's Land, like things like that. The film is shot very well and it's very good action. I like it a lot. And I think that this film does very good at looking well, having fun action, and I think that really just is another adding to the layer of how much I really like this movie. And like on a whole, I think this film feels very cohesive, and the tone feels very steady throughout this entire film. The only problem where you go, oh, that kind of felt like a little bit of a dip or a hiccup is towards the end in that final battle, which I talked about, which is actually a problem they improved upon in the sequel, Wonder Woman 1984. I think on a whole that third act is much better in this third act, and I actually prefer that finale over this one. Now, I'm going to give my final verdict for this movie, and this movie I can say as a whole is not very problematic. It is a very well put together film that has fantastic pacing, very interesting characters, and a plot tackling very big ideas, and a film on a whole that I can say felt very cohesive. I would say this movie is very well done. I just think that they weren't completely able to stick the final ending, and the villains felt something left to be desired, and sometimes felt a little bit silly. But on a whole, I can easily say that Wonder Woman is a great movie. I think that this movie feels very cohesive, and it's a fun movie to sit down and watch. Little issues towards the end, but on a whole, a very enjoyable film that I highly recommend. Also, this movie does a good job at standing out from other superhero movies with that World War I setting. I think Wonder Woman series has done a very good job at standing out in this genre. Anyway, go watch it and have a good time, and if you like this review, you can leave a like, and if you want to comment about Wonder Woman, I'd love to talk to you about it in the comments section. Anyway, go check out my Wonder Woman 1984 review, and if you end up liking that, there are other videos on my channel. Hang around and subscribe if you want. Anyway, things have been a bit hectic recently. I kind of need to explain myself. I'm trying to balance life through this channel and a lot of other stuff that I wish that I could be doing this channel more, and I'm putting all my time and extra time into this channel trying to get reviews up and doing things, but this kind of leaves me with a lack of time to be able to watch new movies, shows, and be able to play new games that I can be able to review. So I wish I could be watching those more frequently. Hopefully I'm able to get through more games. I have a few games I'm trying to play through right now. Hopefully those videos will come up soon. I'd say hopefully in the next 2-3 weeks I'm able to get those reviews up after I play through the campaigns and multiplayer a bit. But anyway, sorry for our videos being a bit more later than usual, but anyways, I'm going to do something hopefully by next Tuesday or Wednesday if things do not get too hectic, and if I will, there will be something up by then. Hopefully I can come up with something. Anyways, life is crazy, but I'll see you then. Bye.